In 2 days' time, it will be the anniversary of the beginning of the Russian war in Ukraine, what Putin calls the special military operation. In November 2021, there was an accumulation of Russian equipment, of tanks, of weapons along Ukraine's border. Various people tried to intervene. Liz Truss waved her hands around a great deal and confused uh, the world press about her understanding of geography. She wasn't quite sure whether Rostov on Don should be considered Russian or Ukrainian. Unfortunately, she was speaking to Sergei Lavrov, who was incredulous that this person should lecture him from the other side of a diplomatic table and wave her hands around and hector him effectively. I think Liz Truss did as much damage um, as almost anybody. Uh, but the real person who is responsible for the special military operation, for the invasion on the 24th of February 2 years ago, is Vladimir Putin. It's a day that everybody in Ukraine will remember. At around 5 a.m., Russia launched missile attacks on dozens of Ukrainian cities, and dozens of Ukrainian citizens were killed and wounded. Martial law was declared. The invader moved from the north, from the south, from the east, and through the Donbass, through Zaporizhia, and Ukraine turned into a country that had to defend itself. Snake Island was captured and defended. The Mariupol, I have a I know somebody. I have a friend who had a factory in Mariupol, and for a while he grew the most enormous beard when he joined the army and worked to defend his country against the invasion. And I remember talking to him on Zoom or Skype, I can't remember which one it was, and feeling quite sort of emotional. Here was this man who was who was a businessman, who was throwing his life into defending his country because he had to, and his factories went up in smoke. And the story is familiar to us. We've watched this play out in real time, along with the distractions and the various games played by Mr. Putin while the world watched. Not least of which would be his interview with Tucker Carlson and the rumors of his death and his illness, and in the end it doesn't matter. He started this process. Whether he's alive or dead to finish it, it doesn't matter. He is responsible. In the same way as he was the person who determined that Alexei Navalny should be imprisoned, he is as responsible for Alexei Navalny's murder as if he had punched Alexei in the chest or injected him with Novichok himself. It doesn't matter who did the final deed. It doesn't matter whether Putin is alive and giggling in the Kremlin like some sort of maniacal version of Dobby or Gollum. And it doesn't matter whether he's in a freezer pushing up against a Smedley HP bag of peas or can of peas. I think it used to be cans. I worked in a Smedley HP factory for a while. I worked through the night. I very much enjoyed it. But I don't think Mr. Putin is the issue any longer. The issue is how to get out of the problem. And I think Russians want to quit the war. And I think we need to work very hard diplomatically to find a way out and to find a way for Russia to retreat with dignity, with honor, and for peace to be established which is lasting. Not a ceasefire, not a retreat, not an unconditional surrender, because that all of those things are not appropriate. What is appropriate is for the Russian troops to withdraw from Ukraine. If there's a need for Russia to have a base in Sevastopol, in Crimea, then that needs to be negotiated. If there's a route for an independent Donbass or Zaporizhia, then that needs to be negotiated. But at the moment, the Russian troops need to withdraw from the areas that they've invaded. And the people of Ukraine are weary, but the people of Russia are weary as well. And there is a growing movement in both countries looking for peace, as there is a growing movement in Israel as well. Peace is what we need. How we get there, what permutation of ceasefire and pause and negotiations, diplomatic negotiations, is involved, that's another matter. But what must be set as a goal is a determined and lasting and a solid peace, which is building up a framework of a relationship between these two countries again.